good morning. I'm now much too relaxed to give you a talk. I apologize. And hearing Sheikha and Talia, I feel completely inadequate, a failure in every aspect of my life. But all the same, I will try and share a little bit of what is happening. I've been a visitor many times to Istanbul and was lucky enough to come with Marcello to the UN Habitat 20 plus years ago when we visited many local social innovations around Greater Istanbul and also celebrated how many times in the last 2,000 years this city has been seen as a model of urban planning, housing, education, welfare. I think we sometimes forget just how often this was a center of global innovation, and this makes it very appropriate to have this discussion now here in Istanbul. So I think everyone who is involved in this field starts with some values. First of all, the idea, if you see a problem, you should be part of the solution. Don't tell someone else to be the solution. And the idea that if we act, we need to be the change we want to see in the world. So we collaborate, as we heard earlier, to solve problems, but we also want a more collaborative society which is good at trust, good at cooperation, good at working together. Those are the values we start from, but then we have a whole series of methods. And in many ways, we are part of a huge change in how innovation is done in the world. So it's not just science, genomics, hardware, the smartphones you all have in your hands. Innovation is now also about services, about user-driven innovation, design, public sector innovation, frugal innovation, data-driven innovation. A huge explosion of methods, many of which can be used for social challenges. Our problem, though, is the huge imbalance in where the world directs its money and its brain power. Far more is directed to the military, or to a few industries like pharmaceuticals or marketing or finance, and very little still to problems of migration or aging or drugs. And this is what we're here about. How do we use the world's brain power and money to really solve the problems which matter most in the world, not perhaps a better YouTube search recommendation engine or a better way of using drones to send missiles to kill people. Now, many people in this room over the last 10 years have been part of building up this field. I think if we were meeting 10 or 15 years ago, we might have been talking about individual NGOs, individual social entrepreneurs. Now we have a much richer conversation about government, about big business, about whole systems, and how we change them for education or renewable energy, all the things we've heard about already this morning. And in the last 10 years, we have seen many new flows of money into this field. Impact investment, government funds, new asset classes like social impact bonds. We have the traditional government technology innovation agencies becoming much more active in this space, certainly in Scandinavia, Malaysia, Singapore. We have the engagement of power, again with national government policies, the European Commission we will hear from in a minute, mayors of very big cities making social innovation part of their program, and hundreds of labs trying to make this real and practical. We have a great shift in knowledge with universities creating research centers, courses of all kinds, and lots of new exchange networks like SIX, and a big shift in how we think about evidence. How do we find out what really works? Which innovations are worthy of being scaled up? And also, too, then we have the bottom-up grassroots pressure from the people. In healthcare, patients' organizations like Honeybee in India, the hackers movement, the maker movement, all of these are coming from the ground up. So this is the good story, and there is a lot to celebrate. So let me just say 1 minute each on a few of what I hope will be some of the shifts of the next few years, which we can talk about today and tomorrow. So one is a shift in R&D. All over the world, countries are spending very large sums on R&D, 4-5% of GDP, big sums, Japan, US, China. We need to be arguing that this should be not just for new aeroplanes or drugs, but some of this should be devoted to social R&D. How do we experiment new ways of maybe helping kids with disabilities to learn? New ways of dealing with youth unemployment, integration of migrants, aging. This is an argument which has to be fought because these are big sums of money not really addressing the needs which matter most. We need to do much more to mobilize digital technology, data, collective intelligence. This is now a huge stream of social innovation. In Europe, about 2,000 organizations now come together in the DSI for Europe program, sharing methods of using digital for finance, like crowdfunding, or in healthcare, or in urban planning. And this is a very dynamic field: civic tech, social tech, digital tech. At a global level, the UNDP, who are here, and Global Pulse are doing fantastic work mobilizing data, artificial intelligence to solve global problems. And in my view, some of the biggest gains will come from what we call collective intelligence. And here is an advertisement for my book on Big Mind. How do we mobilize human and machine intelligence at scale to solve problems? This is the new possibility, which was not really there at all 10 years ago. So a big possibilities in digital. We then, I think, have a next generation of government engagement in this field. This is a picture of some of the people from the Korean government, where the newly elected President Moon last year is not just talking to Kim Jong-un about nuclear weapons. He also has a secretary in the presidential palace devoted to social innovation, 5 ministries creating policy programs to embed this in how a national government works. And there are many others around the world beginning to do similar policy programs. And then we have big business, which is beginning to become much more engaged, and it's fantastic that Zulu is showing the lead here, seeing CSI as the new CSR. We will hear many examples, I think. This is just one from Latin America, NEO, where businesses have come together with funders and governments to create millions of jobs for young people. A good example of practical, effective collaboration. And in the UK, we have an interesting example at the moment, which we manage at Nesta, called the Inclusive Economy Partnership. This is a formal collaboration of national government, big business, big employers, and civil society to work together on these big social challenges, transitions to work for young people, mental health, financial inclusion. We don't know if it works yet, but it's an attempt at a much more systematic structuring of partnership, with the Prime Minister and government playing a leadership role alongside business and civil society to scale up really good social innovations. And then we have the fascinating movements around politics and democracy around the world. In many countries, in a way, there's a choice. Do we see the future of democracy in a public who are passive, sometimes angry, but passive, or one where they are active and play a much more direct role in making decisions, making choices? And we have developed new tools at Nesta, and last year we surveyed how these were being implemented across the world, from Taiwan to Spain to India, really making democracy much more like collective intelligence, much more embedded in social innovation than the alternative of just a strong leader and a weak society, which we think is not a route for the future at all. So these are all some of the areas of experiment and innovation where social innovation has really come of age in the last 10 years. And of course, the reason we are here is we are looking for network effects. When you combine people across the sectors, When you combine people across countries, the whole becomes more than the sum of its parts. New possibilities become clear. We can be inspired, we can be creative. And nearly all innovation in reality is recombination, taking elements and putting them together in a new way. And that is what SIX does so well in exchange, and that is what I hope we will be doing here in the next day and a half. And a very final point, all of this I think is above all about both value and values. Every project we are talking about needs to create value. It has to be useful. Social value, financial value, ecological value. And that is what we are becoming, I think, more sophisticated at, measuring and understanding and promoting. But all of this is also about values, where I started. The sense that we have a duty to be the changes the world needs, that we embed values of trust, of collaboration, of tolerance, of diversity, something this city has led the world in over many, many, many centuries. And we fight against those who have opposite values and want to crush that spirit. And that is what social innovation is now. In some ways, stronger, more mature, more sophisticated, but still with many battles to fight. So hopefully we will help each other fight those battles. We are now going to hear from some fantastic speakers who are at the forefront of doing social innovation across the world. And I would like to start inviting them to come and share a little bit about their experiences. Our first is Nada Kabani. Where is Nada? Are you ready to come? Who is from Brookings in Doha, in Qatar, and will give us a few minutes on what is happening to social innovation in the Middle Eastern region. So please join me in welcoming Nada.